What's going on, Giants fans? Bringing you our Week 18 weekly recap video. I'm Tom Scavetta, joined alongside Hank and Dichter. Appreciate you all for joining us here today. If you're new to the channel, make sure to go check us out on all of our social media platforms on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Big Blue Avenue. Appreciate all the support. But first and foremost, before we dive into this game, Hank, how are you doing today?
Honestly, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, this loss did not bother me at all. It was a lot closer than I think I and a lot of people expected it to be, all things considered. And I'm slightly more confident in the Giants' chances, actually, believe it or not, heading into next week against the Vikings.
It'll be an interesting game for sure. The Giants saw the Vikings on Christmas Eve, where they lost on a game-ending 61-yard field goal, 27-24. But the Eagles beat the Giants in this one in Week 18, 22-16. They clinched the NFC East and home field advantage in the playoffs. Hank, are you surprised that the Giants virtually played none of their starters in this game?
I'm going to say yes and no. And I know this isn't probably the answer that you were expecting me to say, but hear me out. Yes, because I thought, well, you're going in, you're playing against a division rival. You want to possibly hurt their chances of going to the Super Bowl by taking away not only division, but home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So you would think that that would definitely be an incentive. But I'm also going to say no. And the reason why I'm going to say no is because even though in theory I would have preferred to see the Giants starters playing, let's also not forget how banged up they were. So I'm not going to pretend like, I'm outraged that Brian Dable made that decision. I make the mistake. I don't entirely agree, but about like the idea of not playing your starters, but I get where his mindset's coming from. So I'm not upset with that decision at all.
Yeah, I'm not upset. Obviously, I wanted to win the football game, and obviously playing our ones would give us the best opportunity to win the football game. I was wishing we saw them for maybe one or two possessions, but with the Giants' injury luck this season, with all the players that are healing up, you want to make sure they're ready for Minnesota. So I have nothing against that decision. Here are the list of players who did not play at all. I at least thought we'd see some of these guys for a little bit. Apologies, folks. It's a little small. Tyrod Taylor, the backup quarterback, who we thought might start this game, did not play. Kayvon Thibodeau, Daniel Jones, Isaiah Hodgins, who I thought may get a few series in there. Xavier McKinney, Darnay Holmes, which was surprising. Fabian Moreau, Jalen Smith, a little surprising. Mark Lewinsky, John Feliciano. Again, they're the two veterans on the offensive line, so that makes sense. And then Daniel Bellinger. Not active, Julian Love, Adoree Jackson, Saquon Barkley, Azeez Ojulari, Andrew Thomas, Dexter Lawrence, and Leonard Williams. That all makes sense. That all makes perfect sense. But it's a laundry list of players who didn't play in this game, and for the Giants to only, for the Giants to come within 6 points, I don't know, Hank. Unfortunately, I missed the second half of the game due to work obligations, but were you more impressed that the Giants' backups were able to hang with the Eagles, or were you less impressed with Philadelphia letting the Giants hang in this long and virtually playing down to their opposition?
I'm going to say this, and I think you know where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm.
Both can be true. Both can be true. And let me explain why. You're playing against a team that is in position to clinch home field advantage. Of course, I'm going to be impressed with how the third stringers are. I mean, they kept this in the game. They made it so that, Nick Sirianni couldn't afford to take out his regulars. And they knew that home field advantage was actually pretty vital. So in that sense, yeah, I think it was definitely important. But I also think this game being closer proved what I felt about the Eagles on the episode. And keep in mind, I went into our last live stream recording not knowing that you weren't going to see virtually any of their starters.
Likewise, yeah.
The Giants still gave them a scare. And I also said the Eagles have injuries that are going to come back to hurt them. And I'm sorry, even though they won, it doesn't mask the fact that their offensive line is significantly weaker without Lane Johnson.
Yeah, he
And
was
it also
definitely
doesn't
missed.
mask the fact that Jalen Hurts possibly may have returned a little too soon from that injury, you could probably argue.
Yeah, but they need him. And to your
But they
point about,
needed him. I'm not saying it was a bad idea, but I'm just saying they were essentially, their hand was forced.
yeah, they had to play their cards. And to your point about the second and third stringers, let's get into them. Davis Webb making his first career start. What a way to make it in Philadelphia. In the link, Davis Webb, his family, his girlfriend, and both of his parents. Webb's stat line 23 for 40, 168 yards, and one passing touchdown. He also had 6 rushes for 41 yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. Again, the Giants were held scoreless in the first half. They did outscore the Eagles 13-3 in the fourth quarter. But from watching all the highlights, Hank, and what I saw, Davis Webb was very impressive in that second half, but unfortunately, it took him a little bit too long to get going. What did you think of his performance?
Again, all things considered, I definitely thought he improved. I think, over the course of the game, he definitely got better as it went along. But then again, as far as what happened in the first half, I don't know. Maybe it could have been rust. Maybe it could have been him playing a better team. Both are very much possibilities. But with that being said, I thought he definitely looked pretty good in like putting the Giants in a position to where they probably could have come back. But ultimately, that touchdown to Galladay was too little, too late. Actually, no, you know what? Scratch that.
Check.
I have a better phrase for that touchdown by Galladay. Day late and $1 short. See what I did there?
The touchdown checked off a box, though. Galladay's first as a Giant. That catch was impressive, though. I mean, if you're going to score a touchdown, what a way to score it. His only touchdown of the season, only touchdown of his last 2 years, as a matter of fact, over Darius Slay, who is a really good corner, former teammate of his in Detroit. Galladay ended the day with 2 catches for 30 yards and 1 touchdown. Very impressive catch. Definitely helped the Giants stay in the game. Gary Brightwell was solid on the ground, 11 rushes for 60 yards. Lawrence Cager impressed me over the middle of the field as well, displaying some speed, the converted wide receiver to tight end while he was at the University of Georgia. Those 69 receiving yards. And defensively, Hank, I thought the Giants did a pretty good. And by the way, awesome to see Nick Gates starting at center. Actually, I am sort of wrong. Gates and Bredesen both played. So those were really the only 2 starters on offense that saw any time. I consider them both starters because they rotate at left guard. And then defensively, correct me if I'm wrong, Micah McFadden and Nick McLeod were the only 2 starters that saw any type. And I guess Landon Collins, but that goes interchangeable because, I mean.
Don't know about Landon Collins. I would say Micah McFadden's really like the one starter for sure on that.
And he had a great game, Hank. He had a great game.
He did.
Seven tackles and a sack, 2 tackles for loss, a QB hit, and a 79.7 Pro Football Focus grade. Not just the highest on the defense, Hank, the highest on the team.
And that sack was pretty big too in keeping the Giants in the game.
McFadden very quietly had a solid rookie year. I know we talk a lot of crap about the team's linebackers, but McFadden really hasn't had any veterans to learn off of. Jalen Smith was signed in the middle of the season. So when Blake Martinez left, that definitely hurt McFadden's development, as well as Tay Crowder. Eventually, after the bye, McFadden took Tay Crowder's job. I mean, he cost Crowder his job on the Giants. So, you have to say that McFadden had a really solid season as a 5th-round rookie out of Indiana. He finished the rookie campaign with 2 sacks in the regular season, that is, of course. He's definitely going to be up there for our player of the week this week, along with guys like Nick McLeod, who had a great game. Jared Davis, linebacker, who was solid, had 10 tackles and half a sack. You may even see Jared Davis a little bit in the playoffs due to the Giants' lack of depth at the linebacker position. Rodarius Williams was picked on a lot, but the secondary held their own. Jalen Hurts, 20 of 35, 229 yards and 1 interception. Not that impressive when you look at it first glance, but 9 rushes for 13 yards as well. Again, I think Hurts coming off the injury, they didn't want to, blow the socks off of anybody this week. They weren't trying to force anything. They knew they had the advantage going against the Giants backups. And Hank, they just wanted to make sure that they won the football game. And they did. Boston Scott tore us up once again, had that one touchdown. And it seems like Boston Scott's going to be a Giants killer for years to come. I mean, it's been a thing for a while now.
Oh my gosh, he's been that since what, 2019? Like anytime
yeah.
anytime he starts against the Giants, just start him on your put him on your fantasy team automatically.
Oh yeah, he's pretty much guaranteed a touchdown. And I will say I thought Cordell Flott had a really solid game too. Another guy who somewhat had an injury-plagued rookie season for the Giants, but had one pass defended. He was matched up against A.J. Brown. Flott may make a case for the starting bid at the slot next year over Darnay, who will be entering a contract year. Holmes, that is. So I think that'll be interesting. Dane Belton, the 4th-round rookie out of Iowa, 6 tackles, 1 pass defended, and 1 pick. Had his 2nd pick of the season, critical one in the end zone too, Hank. Talk about that play and how good he was.
Yeah, Dane Belton, I would say, was another one of the unsung heroes for the Giants. And again, 6 tackles, that pick in the end zone that we mentioned. Yeah. He probably could have had another pick too. And, I would say you could also make an argument for Dane Belton to be the player of the week. No?
Definitely have to consider him. I mean, he should have had 2 picks. Again, Jalen Hurts did not look great. Wink Martindale's defense so good this season, especially at times where they were playing lack of talent.
Also, one other thing I want to mention about Belton, he did a good job at covering Dallas Goedert, and I think some of that coverage really was what helped limit them to a field goal. So, in a good way, he actually made this game closer than really it probably would have been any other day.
Dallas Goedert had 6 catches, but just for 46 yards. So good job by the Giants secondary and Dane Belton specifically. And the Eagles 1 and 1A receivers and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Brown had 4 catches for 95. Smith had 7 for 67. So not awful for the Giants secondary. We saw a late hit penalty against TJ Edwards. The Eagles defense looked a little off, but Bradbury was solid, had 2 pass deflections, one key one early on 3rd down when Golladay was running a slant, and then Hassan Reddick, those 3 QB hits. The Eagles got pressure, but Davis Webb did a pretty good job eluding pressure in this game. And the Giants defensively, they held the Eagles to field goals. Jake Elliott, 5 for 5 from the day, kicking field goals. Hank, he essentially won Philly the game.
Not the first time that's happened, and hopefully that's the last time, at least in my wishful thinking.
Yeah, it was tough. The Eagles just 1 for 5 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Giants had no turnovers in this game. The Giants won the turnover battle, but the Eagles did win time of possession and clearly had the better roster yesterday. The Eagles do sweep the season series from the Giants in the regular season, but there is a small chance the Giants could see Philly again if they manage to get past the Vikings. If the Seahawks don't beat the 49ers, which is very likely. I mean, I think the one lock of the week in the NFC is the 49ers beating the Seahawks in the wild card round. The Giants will be the lowest seed remaining in the NFC. So if they win, they will go to Philadelphia for a divisional round matchup. The Giants played the Eagles in a divisional round matchup back in 2008 where they lost to them. So maybe this could be a little taste of revenge for the Giants, where ironically enough, the Giants were the 1 seed and the Eagles were the 6 seed. This time around, 14 years later, Eagles are the 1 seed and the Giants are the 6 seed. So, Hank, we might be getting too ahead of ourselves, but if the Giants beat Minnesota, this could give them some confidence heading into Philly and get some tasteful revenge of what ended a tremendous run from New York 14 years ago. And if you notice, in comparison, the end of the regular season for the Eagles was very similar to the end of the regular season for the 2008 Giants, minus Eli Manning didn't get hurt. He played every game. So
Oh my gosh.
Your thoughts on that? I might have one-upped you on that. I was going to save it for the show Thursday, but I'm like, you know what? It's too good to not bring it up now.
No. That is
And Philly had a tie that year. Holy crap.
Everything you said was almost exactly what I was thinking. I think the Giants definitely have a shot against the Minnesota Vikings. Now, obviously, they have to win that game first.
Yes.
And you and I both agree that even though I feel slightly more confident this time around than I did against Vikings. Doesn't mean I think the Giants are going to win, but I definitely like their chances better. I would say that's still going to be a very difficult task, even though the Giants are playing with house money. But I'm going to say this right now, and I feel like I'm going to one-up you by saying this. I want another shot at Philly in the playoffs. I do. And do you want to know why? Because do you understand how hard it is for a divisional opponent to beat the same team 3 times in one season? It is very, very difficult for that to happen.
So before we sign off here, are you saying the Giants might make the NFC Championship game
I'm not
with
partially,
house
but
money?
I'm just saying I want another shot because I don't think it's entirely out of the realm
Absolutely.
of possibility. Am
Yeah.
I saying that they're a better roster than Philadelphia? No, but I'm just saying I think they have a shot.
And both of those could be true. So we'll see what happens. That's really interesting to think about. If the Giants happen to beat Minnesota on Sunday, you have to start comparing them, this year's New York team, to the 2008 Philadelphia Eagles. I think it's only right. Except the Eagles needed like 8 different things to happen in Week 17. The Giants clinched the playoff spot in Week 17. So
I would say week 16 or 17. I got to look that up. They
yeah,
certainly, I don't think they had as dramatic a path of getting to the playoffs as, say, the 2006 Chiefs, or if I want to go even further, the 84 Giants. But that's a tangent I could give you any other day.
but the Giants are in the playoffs. We're on to Minnesota. Appreciate everybody for watching this video here. Quick reminder, want to shout out our proud sponsor, BetUS. You can sign up with our promo code below there at Join125. You get a 125% sign-up bonus when you sign up. You can bet on the go anywhere, anytime from your mobile device. That includes tonight's national championship game if you want to place any last-minute bets between Georgia and TCU. Appreciate all the support. As always, check us out on all of our social media. Hank, we'll see everyone on Thursday. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.